You've brought us a really fascinating astrological look ahead this week, sourced from Tarot by High C, covering April 21st to the 27th, 2025.
Hmm.
And, well, as always on the deep dive, our mission here is to really get under the surface of these predictions, understand what these key energies might actually mean for you, the listener.
Absolutely. And when you first glance at this week's forecast, I mean, the headline itself jumps out: tension, aggression, power.
Right.
It immediately signals, okay, this is probably going to be a period with some significant emotional intensity, potential for some pretty dramatic stuff, actually.
Definitely sets a tone.
It does.
Yeah.
So our goal here isn't just to list what might happen, but maybe get a feel for why these particular alignments could, well, stir things up so much.
Right. And the source, Tarot by High C, it paints a pretty vivid picture, doesn't it? What that tension and aggression might look like day to day.
Yeah, things like ego clashes, feeling really fatigued, maybe blind ambition running rampant.
Even mentions things like intimidation, manipulation.
Yeah.
It sounds like we all need to be a little extra mindful this week. Maybe keep our cool.
Indeed. And what's important is that the overview doesn't just, list the problems. It offers guidance too.
Yeah.
The real emphasis is on trying to remain calm, being aware of our own reactivity, and channeling assertiveness constructively. That's really key. Using the energy, not letting it just wash over you or control you.
So finding that sweet spot, right? Harnessing your power, but without tipping into aggression.
Exactly.
And being assertive in a way that helps everyone, not just me.
Precisely. And the forecast also kind of throws down a challenge, doesn't it? It pushes us to be really honest about what's just not working anymore in our lives.
Yeah, I saw that. This idea of a disconnect, like between what we do and what we really want, that seems pretty central.
It really does. And it suggests that if we try to resist seeing that truth, well, that might just crank up the turbulence even more.
It's like trying to drive with the handbrake on, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a perfect analogy. Yeah. Creates friction, slows you down. Eventually, something's got to give.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
We do tend to cling to the familiar.
Yeah.
Even when it's not great for us. Out of habit, maybe fear.
Oh, absolutely. But it sounds like this week might really force the issue, make us confront those attachments.
And what comes next in the advice is interesting.
Mhm.
Looking at what hurts, actually letting go of what doesn't serve us, and then planting something new, something built to last.
Yes. It's not just clearing out the junk drawer. It's about consciously deciding what seeds you want to plant for the future. Really intentional.
Okay, so let's dig into the specifics then.
Yeah.
Starting with Monday, we've got Saturn conjunct the North Node. Now, for someone maybe not super fluent in astro speak, can you unpack that? What does it mean practically?
Sure. Let's think of the North Node as like your soul's compass, right? The direction you're meant to be evolving towards in this life.
Okay.
And Saturn is like the master architect or maybe the stern teacher, concerned with structure, responsibility, lessons, sometimes limitations. So when they come together conjunct, it's like your life's blueprint is having a major review with the head architect. It's a big moment to check if the structures you've built, your habits, commitments, routines, are actually supporting where your compass is pointing.
And with the North Node in Pisces specifically,
Yeah.
what kind of growth is that pointing towards? What's the flavor there?
Well, Pisces often deals with spirituality, intuition, compassion, that sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
So when Tarot by High C talks about walking your spiritual talk, it's basically saying align your daily life, your actions with those deeper beliefs and values.
So less theory, more practice.
Exactly. Tapping into that inner wisdom, maybe letting go of some of the anxiety, the need to control every little thing. It's like choosing faith over fear, essentially, trusting the process.
That feeling of surrendering, trusting,
Yeah.
it definitely feels Piscean. And it's almost an antidote, isn't it, to that initial tension, aggression, power warning.
It really is. It offers a way through those energies, perhaps with a bit more grace.
Okay. Then we hit Wednesday, and wow, it looks like a real crunch point. We've got Venus conjunct the North Node and the Sun square Pluto. That's a lot.
It is a lot. Definitely a focal point for the week.
Let's take Venus and the North Node first. What's the key takeaway there?
Well, this alignment seems to bring, let's say, a clearer perspective,
Yeah.
especially around people and money. The overview mentions the illusion falls away. So it suggests we might see situations, relationships, maybe our financial habits more objectively.
Like seeing what really supports our values and growth versus what's maybe just a distraction or a dead end.
Exactly. Like a bit of a cosmic reality check for our connections and resources. A spring cleaning, maybe.
And it builds on Monday's theme, doesn't it?
Mhm.
First, the overall direction, now looking closely at the relationships and finances within that path.
Precisely. Are these things helping you move towards that Pishan North Node goal? Or are they kind of holding you back in old patterns? It prompts that question.
Asking, do these things actually nourish my soul's growth? Okay, got it. Now, Sun square Pluto. The description uses terms like identity crisis, power struggle, ego conflicts. Yeah, that definitely sounds.
No.
Yeah, it's a potent one.
Yeah.
A square aspect in astrology generally points to tension, right? A challenge. Something needs integrating.
Okay.
So you have the sun, our core self, our vitality, our ego in friction. With Pluto, the planet, deep transformation, power, secrets, the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
When they square off, it can create this intense pressure around our sense of self, how we use power, how we experience power. That phrase, collapse of false security causing tension that cannot be ignored.
Yeah, that stood out.
It really captures it. Like any shaky foundations might start to crumble, forcing us to look.
And it sounds like this could play out inside us, like wrestling with our own stuff, but also between people.
Oh, absolutely.
Reactive behavior, power plays. The overview even mentions manipulation. We need to be really aware,
Yeah.
both of ourselves and others. Totally. That's why the advice is crucial. Connect with your inner strength. Notice where you might have, maybe unconsciously, given your power away,
Right.
and resist that urge to control things or to win every argument. Letting go of needing to be right seems vital here.
This idea of the old clashing with the new,
Mhm.
our sense of security being tested.
Mm,
And with Pluto in the mix, it feels like a push towards some deep changes.
exactly. Pluto digs deep. It's about unearthing what's hidden, breaking down what's not sustainable, and then ideally rebuilding on something more solid, like real self-reliance, inner truth, not just relying on external stuff for validation.
A fundamental rethink of what security actually means.
Precisely. Moving away from the superficial towards something internal.
Okay. Then on Thursday, we shift gears a bit. Venus conjunct Saturn, described as tough love for our dreams.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a reality check, doesn't it? A more sobering energy after Wednesday, perhaps.
So what does that tough love look like?
Well, think of it as putting our dreams, our relationships, maybe creative projects through a bit of a stress test. But the love part is important. It suggests that if these things are really solid, if they have true potential, they'll withstand the scrutiny. They might even get stronger because of it.
So maybe a day where we feel a little more emotionally reserved, or we start asking, is this relationship really built to last? Is this project actually viable?
Exactly that. Discerning between what has real substance and what might just be, a passing fancy or wishful thinking.
Makes sense.
It's also a good time to look at where we might be overgiving, in relationships, financially. Time to revisit boundaries.
And reinvest where it counts.
Right. Put your energy into the people and projects that genuinely support your long-term well-being. And the overview mentions previous Venus-Saturn meetups this year.
So it's part of a cycle.
Potentially, yeah. This could feel like a point where things become clearer. Maybe decisions get made based on that longer evaluation period.
Interesting. Okay. Moving towards the weekend.
Mhm.
Saturday brings Mars opposite Pluto. And the notes say this is the third time in 6 months.
Yeah, that repetition is significant. It points to a recurring theme, a dynamic that keeps coming up for review or confrontation.
And given the planets involved, another spike in emotional intensity seems likely.
Almost guaranteed, I'd say. An opposition aspect creates this real point of tension, like a tug of war between two powerful forces.
Mars being action, drive, aggression.
Right. And Pluto, as we've covered, is power, transformation, intensity.
So when they oppose, fireworks.
Could be. It can amplify everything. Think potential for major ego clashes, feeling backed into a corner, maybe ultimatums, a strong internal push to make a big dramatic move. Reactivity and anger could definitely be dialed up.
That feeling of someone else trying to control you, or
Yeah.
just being on a massive power trip, or maybe feeling your own drive is being totally blocked.
Exactly. That can be incredibly frustrating and triggering. And then you see that list of shadow behaviors pop up again.
Yeah, blind ambition, arrogance, intimidation, manipulation through fear, entitlement, lack of compassion. It's like the raw, unrefined potential of Mars-Pluto.
It really is. And the temptation to just react, lash out, make impulsive moves without thinking, that'll be strong.
So the advice, again, is crucial.
Absolutely. Stay grounded, channel the energy constructively, lead from purpose, not ego, be strong, but not, a bully.
Refuse to play toxic games.
Yeah.
Step back from standoffs.
Yes, choose impact over impulse. Think long-term consequences. Humility helps too. It's about assessing the situation before jumping in.
Seems like a day to tread carefully and consciously.
Very much so.
Okay, finally, we get to Sunday and the new moon in Taurus. After all that potential turbulence, a new moon usually signals a fresh start, right? A bit of relief.
It definitely brings that potential, yes. A new moon is always the beginning of a new lunar cycle. Time to set intentions, plant seeds.
And in Taurus. That sounds grounding.
Very grounding. Taurus is all about stability, security, the senses, our connection to the physical world, what we value. So this new moon suggests a chance to rebuild, focus on what nourishes us, create more solid foundations.
Going back to basics. Checking priorities. Building something real and lasting.
Exactly. It feels very Taurian. Setting practical goals, money, relationships, health. Creating routines or rituals that anchor us. It's like a deliberate move towards stability after potential chaos.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, often in astrology, yeah. This particular new moon isn't entirely smooth sailing. It forms a square aspect to both Mars and Pluto.
Ah, so the planets from Saturday's tension are still involved.
They are, which adds this layer of complexity, maybe underlying tension to the fresh start. It suggests the path forward might still have some bumps.
So turbulence even within the new beginning. The overview mentions potential global unrest, economic shifts. That sounds significant.
It is. It highlights that the tension between wanting stability, that Taurian urge, and the push for transformation Mars and Pluto is still very much active.
But tug of war.
Exactly. Between bold action, maybe immediate gratification, dismantling old systems, versus the need to preserve, build slowly, evolve carefully, it suggests this energy might be particularly challenging for anyone who's been really resisting change.
So balance is key then. Moving forward, but with wisdom.
That seems to be the core message. Don't get stuck, but don't leap without looking either.
And there's one more layer. The fixed star Adhil.
Yes, the new moon aligns with Adhil, and this star often brings focus onto themes of power again, how it's used, how it's abused.
How authority is communicated, challenged, maybe overthrown.
Precisely. It touches on standing up for yourself, defending your corner, pursuing your own path without undue interference.
So it circles back to authenticity.
It really does. The importance of discovering and then freely expressing your true self, manifesting who you really are.
Wow. Okay, so looking at the whole week, it really is a potent stretch of time, isn't it? So much focus on power dynamics, personal evolution, confronting things that maybe aren't working anymore.
Definitely. Both inside ourselves and potentially in the wider world. It's about reevaluating those structures.
The big message seems to be about self-awareness then. Mindful action, focusing on long-term growth, even if the week itself feels intense.
I think that sums it up perfectly. It's about navigating these strong currents with intention, prioritizing sustainable growth over short-term reactions or gains, even when things feel uncomfortable.
So for you, our listener, as you digest all of this, maybe the question to sit with is, considering these intense energies, what's one area of your life that feels most ready for that kind of honest evaluation? That potential reset this astrology seems to be pointing towards.
That's a good reflection point.
Definitely something to mull over as we navigate these potentially transformative days ahead.